into a system designed to keep us behind. But knowledge is power, keep that in mind. Pay attention to the road and the signs. You gon' shine, you gon' know when it's time. We was born into oppression, threw us in them jails, waist deep in depression. All the deception, knowledge is a weapon. They even took that away, it cost for a lesson. School prices go up, kids don't show up. Gang signs get thrown up, progression getting slowed up. Politicians speak on it, they acting like they know us. They just wanna control us with the lies that they told us. And now I'm standing for it, every other day. Got a body on a camcorder, and we don't get no damn order. And Flynn ain't get no damn water. On the ground, watch another black man slaughtered. Either that or the can, they had a plan for it. They stopped slavery and opened prisons. And we all know religion, culture, division. You gotta see the vision to make a decision. Grew up in the streets, so the mission, they know that I'm with it. I feel like Nat Turner on the back burner, waiting for my time to rise. Started on the crack corner. We ain't have nothing but a pack on us. Police spin the block, they was trying to snap on us. Mama went through, we trying to get that stack for her. But D's caught him around the corner with that crack on him.
Through the hell and rain, heard them say it won't be the same. Reason why we praise, cause we know we'll find better days. So in the heaven gates, and we won't be late. So in the heaven gates, and we won't be late.
Hey yo, I'm numb to the pain, scarred by the game, reminiscing on them days like a slave locked in a cage. It's real, I just write how I feel. Represent for the youngest, cause I know how they feel. All them nights, no meals, you just mad that your tummy ache. So you on the streets grinding, trying to get another plate. I know, I was right there selling sour, trying to save money for some studio hours.
Through the hell and rain, heard them say it won't be the same. Reason why we praise, cause we know we'll find better days. So in the heaven gates, and we won't be late. So in the heaven gates, and we won't be late. What you know about taking losses? If the defense clip your mans, you gotta change your offense. Enslaved people still line, it's just a different auction. Switch the whips, the nightsticks, a metal guarded fortress. Every block stay cautious, spiritually it gets me nauseous. Fighting off darkly forces, knowing to press my conscience. Knowing this life ain't awesome, skips what's important. Crack came in handing every black person a coffin. Fear to lay my offspring, I see death often. Babies having babies, government will preach abortion. 1 meal a day, I portion like 3 courses. To break it down, Chuck Norris, you gotta be a tourist. We adapt and fit resources. Watch our kids, we passing torches. If we ever get endorsements, fuck them up on college courses. It's the process, metamorph this legacy. The only fortune, jealousy is not important. What for all is split our portions.
I'm just trying to stay alive. I'm just trying to survive. I'm just trying to stay alive. I'm just trying to survive.
I see the vision to make a decision, grew up in the streets.
What's up, folks? We starting at 1, man. 1 o'clock. Stay with us, share the live, pass it on.
As soon as I get out this cage, I set it off. As soon as we get out this cage, we set it off. As soon as I get off these chains, I set it off. As soon as we get off these chains, we'll set it off. As soon as I get out this cage, I set it off. As soon as we get out this cage, I set it off. As soon as I get out these chains, I set it off. As soon as we get off these chains, we'll set it off. You heard of destiny, something that was passed down, it was guarded through a legacy. A refugee lives a Fuji lava, got it through the mezzanine. Most of us got trauma when we go to war, we ride out. And if you're undocumented, but bust your shit and then you slide out. Different hood, different places, you can see the girls on faces. This is what the hell they gave us hell is how they raised us. With the shits, I've been in the shits. Too much shit, yeah, I'm really legit. Flip my wrist while I'm hitting the grits. Flip my wrist while I'm hitting the lick. EBT, it came on a 6. It's a 16, now I'm back on the strip. Mama can't sit, mama doing double shifts. She worked too hard like she don't exist. Hurt too hard, but she won't admit. Shoes tied 10 toes down, won't trip. Some of these doors just gotta get kicked. Some of these cans just gotta get ripped. All y'all rings just gotta get stripped. All y'all cans just gotta get whipped. Your hand on the bar, but I don't mean shit. Cause men lie, women lie, they can't resist. 25 life won't drop my fist. Ancestors really gave me this. Liberation, I'ma pay me this. Fred Hampton really gave me this. As soon as I get out this cage, I set it off. As soon as we get out this cage, we set it off. As soon as I get off these chains, I set it off. As soon as we get off these chains, we'll set it off. As soon as I get out this cage, I set it off. As soon as we get out this cage, I set it off. As soon as I get out these chains, I set it off. As soon as we get off these chains, we'll set it off. I'm pissed off, they don't wanna take a risk, dog. Mama had to put her dreams on a shelf, she ain't never been a bitch, dog. Fuck them chains on your wrist, dog. We ain't never had shit but struggle, colonizers really got me sick, dog. New order to my dick, dog. The perpetuation through this hateration ain't no toleration. I can hardly make it, I can hardly fake it. Wasn't being patient, yeah, my heart was racing with the concentration. I was down, 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 down bad. In my bag, trying to chase a bag. Me nickel, dimes, quarters, even halves. Triple beam help me do the math. In my head, I'm like, fuck is you telling us? Go hard dead at us. You can see how you set it up. Killing blacks with Berettas, trying to get ahead of us. I don't know why you sweating us. White man, what you telling us? Ooh, trying to heal with my people, ooh. And my people's feeling people, ooh. Different traumas we ain't equal to. I don't know who you speaking to. Told my brother he ain't need the blues. Hammer time, but I'ma need the blues. Giving gifts, this is people, boo. Showing love, defeat the evil too. Even when I spit the lethal boo. Breaking chains, I believe in you. Breaking chains, yeah, I believe in you. As soon as I get out this cage, I set it off. As soon as we get out this cage, we set it off. As soon as I get off these chains, I set it off. As soon as we get off these chains, we'll set it off. As soon as I get out this cage, I set it off. As soon as we get out this cage, I set it off. As soon as I get out these chains, I set it off. As soon as we get off these chains, we'll set it off.
What's happening? Peace, everybody. Let's get our guests, man. Kumi, you there? Let's join. What's good, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. We got a special guest that's coming through today to ride with us. What's good, everybody? Shout out the YOC. Shout out to the peoples. Shout out to everybody struggling through the COVID stuff, and all the people that are dealing with all kinds of internal stuff, emotional stuff, interpersonal stuff, and definitely all of the structural and health related stuff due to the fuckery that us black people and brown people and us women and us indigenous people go through, caught up in this game of, U.S. democracy. So just shout out to us that's still struggling. Shout out to the people that was able to tune in on this Sunday. We waiting for Kumi to come through. And we got Kumi.
Hello.
Kumi, what's good? Let me get my headphones.
Okay.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm chilling. Good to see you. Um,
You too.
we got a couple of people on. Let's
I can
kick
see that. Hello.
let's kick it with the folks, man. I want to first introduce myself. My name is Cory Green. I'm one of the co-founders of H.O.L.A, Healing Justice Organizer with YOC. My family, friends, and a lot of my experiences come from Queens, New York. Shout out to Queens. Shout out to the Barn Building. and my family's from Mississippi, and journeyed across a lot of terrains and a lot of convict leasing and 13th Amendment, and the rise and the continued growth of the prison industrial complex and mass incarceration, and made it to hallways, made it to prison cells, and started really thinking about how we build ourselves and how we take back our stories. So that's some of who I am. Shout out to H.O.L.L.A. H.O.L.L.A was created in prison by a wonderful spirit first, spirit that came from our ancestors, spirit that came from our elders and people's struggles in prison, that me and 7, 8, 9 of the other co-founders fell in our laps, and we was able to cultivate that spirit, and turned into like a friendship and a bond between each other that later turned into us figuring out bylaws and how to develop what we call H.O.L.L.A, which led to us really thinking about how we connect to young people like us or who are like us. And before we even knew those young people, thinking about our other co-founder, A-Rox, and his words. So H.O.L.L.A is about really standing on grassroots, indigenous, healing center pedagogy, in the context of movement building or community building, and really thinking about how we love each other through organizing and through healing.
Right.
This is our third live discussion around our documentary that we released back in June called We Came to Heal, We Came to Heal, featuring all of the YOC brilliance, all of our organizers, Victor, Lauren, Myasia, Phil, Rachna, A-Rox, Alex, Mashley, Shaq, Kiran, and so many more people that contributed to that experience. Shout out to that documentary. It really documented our last 3 years of organizing, developing how to build on already established healing justice movement, how to do that in New York with our young people, and what we experienced through that analysis. Shout out to Mariah. I see you in the crowd. Before we introduce our guests and let them get some spirit to who they are and why they come to this live today, in the spirit of our ancestors and just the culture of H.O.L.L.A and YOC, I want to share some bars and some spirit to get us started, to like further bring in the ancestors. Is that okay with you, Kumi?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it is. Hopefully you can send some vibrations back to us at the end of this to close us out.
Yeah.
I came to heal what you came to do. I came to build what you came to do. I came to feel. Tell me what you came to do. But if I gotta kill just to make it through, brat, I'ma make sure I make it you. But I said we came to heal what y'all came to do. I said we came to build what y'all came to do. I said we came to feel what y'all came to do. But if we gotta kill just to make it through, brat, we gonna make sure we make it you. But I said we all came to heal what they came to do. I said we all came to build what they came to do. I said we all came to feel what they came to do. But if we gotta kill just to make it through, brat, we gonna make sure we make it you. Snap it up, YOC, H.O.L.L.A, we in the building. I said, healing justice is our strategy. Responding to historical tragedy. Now we all in the building. They gonna be mad at we. Soon as the tip off, the D's pull up slow, we dip off. It's routine, it's street knowledge. I said it's routine, it's street knowledge. But we not here just organizing against a policy. Picture me giving an apology to those people who lied to me, standing on spirit, speaking the prophecy. I went from property to half-breed and back to property. Shit is like monopoly. And it used to be all about the cheddar. Now it's how our lives link all together.
Together.
We
Yeah.
sit in circles and make it better, collectively hurting together. It's old pain, it's new pain. We like no more pain. And ever since we learned about white supremacy, we ain't been the same. I'm talking about the slaves, ships, whips, and the chains. I'm talking about the cuffs, courts, metal detectors, and up north trips. And how families get divorced quick. And how culture get lost in other wisdoms. And how our intimate relationships is filled with isms. And how that trauma be laying beneath the surface. Nah, I don't think y'all get our purpose. I said healing justice is our strategy.
Yeah.
Responding to historical tragedy. Now we all in the building. They gonna be mad at we to the legacy. Shout out to our ancestors. Shout out to our elders. Shout out to our grandmoms. Shout out to
Yeah.
the people who struggled, who sacrificed. Shout out to all our sheroes and heroes behind the walls who love us and who've been working so that we can be here to have this conversation. And I'm so excited to introduce our first young person to talk about the documentary and reflect on that. So Kumi, man, let us know who you are, how you come to this conversation, what you feeling like today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kumi Owusu. I am working to be the ultimate creative, specializing in consulting. I already consult and write and style, and then producing and directing attached to that. Yeah, I'm Ghanaian American. I was born in the Bronx, currently reside in Westchester. So, yeah. Yeah, just keeping busy right now, having a
So
good time.
what nationality, what ethnicity you rep, what where your family, where your people's from? Want to share about some of that?
Yeah, so I actually figured it out like not too long ago because growing up you're taught to like pick one
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, well, I'm all these things, I don't know, so you have to like do your research and like learn about it all. And then it's just like we should be doing that anyway, and we're already 100% of everything we already are. Like I am Ghanaian American,
Talk about it.
and I was born in the Bronx.
Talk
Like
about
that's
it.
it. That's everything.
Talk
Any
about it.
added thing else is like I've also lived in Mount Vernon
Mm.
and Yonkers. Yeah. So I'm like, when it's like I'm from everywhere, like, yeah, literally, because it's all different kinds of people and stuff. But my parents, I'm first generation. I'm a first generation American. My parents were born in Ghana. My sister went over there recently and discovered like our lineage doesn't end or start in Ghana. So we'll see what else I am. Just keep talking to your elders, and then you'll figure it out. That's how you figure out where you come from. So,
Shout out to the elders. Way to keep bringing that back. Let us know
yeah.
real quick. Let the people know what you fight for. Like what does healing mean to you? Give them some spirit about where you coming from around that.
So ultimately, like how I live my personal life, like I let people be who they are around me, right? And it's a measure of myself if I can be around them or not, right? Like all my friends and I, we're all like-minded and it's great. So it's like if you can create that kind of space for yourself, where you work and where you do everything else, you'll be great. So like healing in terms because healing doesn't have to be like eternal. You don't always have to like be in a healing process. You can just be at peace, right? So that's where I'm trying to be at. And to get there, it's like freedom. Like healing is freedom. Like it's the process of like learning how to exercise that freedom in a way to not hurt. Because if hurt people, healed people bring peace. You know what I mean? So it's
Talk
like
about
that's
it.
what I'm trying to do. Yeah. So that's what I'm trying to do. Because as Black people, and as no one can disagree, we don't know how to do that. We were told you don't have it. Like when you're
Mm-hmm.
not seen as a human being and you're not treated like that, you have a different timeline. Your life and how you age and stuff it's different. You don't understand things the same way other people do. Doesn't matter. I'm from here. I grew up with in America and stuff, but a white person that also grew up here will have a different interpretation of like what life is here compared to me because we were viewed differently and we still
Mm-hmm.
are. So ultimately, healing is just getting away from all of this, right? Like just getting away from it all and doing what you want to do.
Mm.
Yeah.
Snaps. Thank you for that. Part of the reason why I asked that question because we want to at least use the documentary a little bit to dive in and launch off and
We could
the
use it all.
yeah
Listen,
yeah
I rewatched it. We can use all of it because as a creative, as someone like is very interested in the arts, I grew up loving movies, and documentaries are just like a segue to that. It's just like, yeah, I'm into this too. It's an easy way to learn because reading can sometimes be boring,
hmm
not, I'm a writer too, but sometimes you just want to watch something, get some visuals. And this documentary did that. Like I had to rewatch it like after, knowing you for a short period of time and like talking to people in the organization and stuff and seeing what you guys are about. Like, oh wow, this is like real life. It's not staged. It's not anything. It's like all these moments of real life in a beautiful, like a beautiful time capsule.
mm,
Because it's not the end and it wasn't even the beginning. It was literally just a moment.
it's a
Like, let's
moment.
just do 3 years of what we've been doing and gonna keep doing
No
and
question.
see what happens. 67K. This is how many views today? I don't know. We'll see. Probably 70 tomorrow. We'll see. Like it's,
Snap it up.
but definitely gonna hit. You're definitely gonna hit 100K by the
Snap
end
it
of the
up.
year.
It's
Like
100K. Pass that link, man. We came to
past
here
that, like
on
already in
YouTube.
4 months. I'm just so happy because it's so good, and it's as someone that watched 13 and a couple other documentaries that like centered around like gang life in like New York or just anything to do with like any that came out of like racism and stuff like in New York. This documentary, because those documentaries like they bring out experts and they bring out they have all the roles filled like
Mm,
experts and
talk about it.
teachers and yeah, and
Break
they
that
have
down.
people that like that were affected by whatever the documentary is about, right? In Holla and We Came to Heal, you guys are all those roles.
Talk about it. Break that down, sister. What that
But
means? Say
no,
more about
really,
that.
because
You dropping some work here. Say some more about that. What you mean? What you
no,
talking
really,
about?
because and this is how you know it's real too. Because you guys were talking about you used your lives to do what you're doing. Like you're the experts in your own field. You were affected by what you went through. You know, you're the ones that are facilitating all this stuff. Like it's not like you're hiring other people to just come out here and be the work and you're just the face of it. No, like you're in the building every day and you know everyone. Like you guys really did this yourselves. And it's like it's really telling because it's like okay, if we're taught standards growing up like white and black and stuff and like if you want to be successful you can't be all these things that have to do other than like whiteness, right? But if you guys are gaining this much traction and like success being who you are and being where you're from and staying where you are, like you're not doing this in Brooklyn or like, like you're staying where you came from. And it's actual visuals of where you guys came from. And I'm saying Brooklyn because that's where a lot of organizations like to go for like, spot
Queens
for like
up.
venues and stuff, you know? And
Harlem
it's
run the
like,
building too.
yeah. And it's like, that's fine, but it shouldn't be that hard to bring awareness to where you're from and what you're trying to do. Like you should be able to do that where you're from. And the fact that I spent a lot of my most of my adulthood like in Yonkers, like high school and college until now, like I've seen that. I've seen organizations, grassroots organizations here do that the same way. We don't need to code switch. We don't need to. I don't even know because I don't do it. Like we don't need to do anything else except be who we are, and get the work done that way.
Mm.
And yeah, I just really love it. Like I love it so much. Like the documentary is great. Congratulations again.
Thanks a lot for that. Shout out to YLC again. Shout out to Phelan Jones who helped us put that together over 3 years. A lot of conversations.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say real quick, because you brought up a dope point, the documentary was definitely just capturing a moment within us building, and we've been building particularly our group for like the last 6 years. But this work
Yeah.
is work that people was doing definitely in the early 2000s and in the 90s inside of prison, but definitely people work that leads to work that people was doing in the late 60s, early 70s. That's related to the work that a lot of community members were doing outside in the 60s that got before they got pushed into the prison.
Yeah.
So these different moments that we're able to document our history, and really tell a
Yeah.
grassroots narrative is really important. I want to really shout out YOC because, like you said, we was thinking about how do we communicate some of the stuff we learned and some of the stuff we experienced. and we made an album. Shout out to our album,
Yup.
the Healing Justice Movement
Shout out to
album,
the album for real.
titled The Report
Wow.
Back. And then we also want to make a documentary. Now, going to the documentary, how did you first come in contact with the documentary? What was that experience, and what was those relationships that brought you first to the documentary? How did you first get in contact with it, and what was that like?
Right. So brief like history. I participated in the NAACP AXO competition in high school for like all 4 years, but the last 3 years I made internationals, right? And it's a high school competition for anyone of African descent. So anyone can do it, and there's like 39 categories that you can do. It's great. So from that came out a relationship with Miss Ingram Taylor, who is now the chairperson of AXO, like Westchester AXO. So yeah, she sent me the link. Like she sent me the Facebook link to the three weekend, the 3-part Zoom call you guys were doing right over the summer. And I was like, okay, I'll because I had nothing to do, and it's like, okay, yeah, that's fine. And I'm watching it because I'm in a place in my life where I know for a fact I'm not gonna be dealing with racism personally or professionally for much longer, right? Like I've done the work to understand what I need to understand to move on, because it's an idea and it's not even real. Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like people devoting their lives to it kind of rubs me the wrong way. And like, you could be doing, this is what you really want to do though, but whatever. That's not my business. It's not my business. But yeah, so my mindset going in was like, this is just going to be like Black people, prophesying and stuff, and that's fine. But it wasn't that; it was more than that. I've never seen anything like it before. That's why it's so hard to like kind of contextualize and stuff. But you
Mm-hmm.
guys, I used to watch stuff and like listen to podcasts and stuff and like hear white people or just anyone else in like that in like academia or whatever talk about racism or history or whatever, and they're missing questions, they're missing points, they're missing questions, and it's like you don't understand what you're talking about. Okay, next, right?
Mm-hmm.
With this one, because it was like the people that are affected by it and that are leading and doing their own thing are in it and leading the documentary and stuff. You didn't miss one question. Like you guys are asking questions, you guys are saying stuff and making points that I'm like, I didn't even know. Me, Black from the Bronx, didn't even know. And it's like, it's all so important. This is the kind of stuff that I was like talking about and wanting to see on a larger scale for so long. Listen to Black people talk about their experiences. That's it. That's it. Just take it and go. It's not even a conversation because most of the conversations are like, oh, why do you hate white people? Why are we starting here? Well,
Mm-hmm.
how did this happen?
Mm.
Well, you know what I mean? It's like we got to start with
Mm.
such an extreme and other people. We're not even
That's
talk about me first. Okay. So the fact that you guys just really did that in a way that was like also you, because again, the music that's in there too, right?
the music is there,
Top notch.
no
I listen to a
question.
lot of music. Okay. And being first generation, I have to teach myself everything I know about this country, like everything about this culture, like hip hop and stuff. All the songs I know. Okay, me, I do that for myself. So listening to the music and stuff and just watching how like just the cinematography of the documentary, like how it was structured. Like this is really well put together. It's
Shout
not
out
just
to
3 or
Fame.
4 years. Yeah, it's not just 3 or 4 years of like
Shout
of
out to Hot.
footage. For real, congratulations. Okay, you did that. It's like 3 and 4 years of like editing and actual labor to make it look good and sound good and make sense.
Mm.
And I'm just so proud. What's happening next? I don't even know.
Nah,
I'm just
nah. That is definitely all that spirit you shared is what that spirit was. That's how we found it when we was doing it, when we was making it.
yeah.
So you definitely a reflection of that spirit. Shout out to Keyron, because Keyron was in those 3-part series of where we showed the We
He
Came to
was.
Hell
Shout out to Ron.
documentary, and we showed little clips, and then we opened up to dialogue. And I remember the first time we showed the clip and then we went into dialogue. That was powerful. You went in that day too, Kumi. So thanks for bringing
Yeah.
some of that energy back. Shout out to Shaq too on the thread, because Shaq and
Yeah, I'm
Kiran,
like reading the comments.
yeah, they coming on next. Kiran is on a live tomorrow around We Came
I
to
saw.
Hell. Shaq is
I
coming
shared.
late.
Yeah.
Shaq is coming later on in the week, and we're gonna keep this going. So thanks for jumping in with some of that. I wanted to go into kind of like you already went into it, talking about like we need to focus on our healing. Why we always start off with like white people or whiteness. And
Yeah.
really, I think one of the dope things about healing justice and just really pulling on our big sister Kara Page, who really thinks about the the way that grief and the way that burnout and the way that like organizers was committing suicide and not struggling through and not honoring their pain,
Yeah.
how that was a slice of wisdom that brung them and some of their peoples to really center, really thinking about what is this thing about how do we bring healing closer to our work. And then me, you, shout out to Black Guard, one of our elders. Shout out to Mariah, who's on the chat right now.
Hey,
Shout out,
Mariah.
shout out,
Hey.
shout, shout out to Camelback, who's one of the people that support H.O.L.L.A and funded H.O.L.L A from way back. We did a healing circle around grief,
Yeah.
and we was talking about some of that, and you was part of that conversation, leading that with us as well. You said so much that day that I felt like it was important to bring some of that back and to really also connect that to like at least some more contemporary historical thread that like
Hmm.
that one of our foremothers, Kara Page, was saying at some of her, I mean, some of them and their people's early beginnings, that thinking about how do we get through the burnout, how do we get through the hurt, how do we get through the grief, like became really important for like individual like
Yeah.
transformation and individual healing, but also sustaining and growing the movement and sustaining and growing family. So speak to us about what you think about grief and what you think about some of the stuff I just said and some of that spirit you had that day in that conversation.
Yeah. So to the point that you made of like not burning out or like succumbing or being devastated by like the work that we have to do or your experiences, right? I feel like the healing that comes from that is from knowing yourself. And that identity has been watered down so much in this country, especially for Black people, because when it comes to Black people and Blackness, it's like excuses instead of like understanding. It's like, oh, it's just skin, or like it happened so long ago, it doesn't matter anymore. People don't understand. You're saying this privilege because you have 5 generations alive in your family right now, And not to say that Black Americans don't have like long lineages, but I'm saying in terms of like knowing where you originate from,
Mm-hmm.
right? And knowing where you come from and how that informs on how you think about yourself, because we don't need a breakdown of like representation and all that stuff. We know what that does. We remember how we were younger and seeing things and how it affected us and stuff. And healing is a process, right? Healing is it's love, but it's a more specific, individual, personalized kind of love that takes a lot of time, in terms of mentally, because practicing, it takes 21 days to develop a habit, and you can be one of those people that like does something and then you do it and like you're just done. But knowing how to think about yourself, because if you don't understand how you abuse others or abuse yourself, you won't understand how to heal, until you can understand your own, you can't understand how you do it. So people just need to be real with their lives, right? And their experiences, because we don't have that, right? Black people, black skinned people in the diaspora, they don't have the connection to the continent, right? I don't want to say Africa because that's like a white thing, but the motherland, they don't have it. All we have is the history that we have right now and ourselves. And that's fine. It's enough. It is, because we're people, and because like what we would get from knowing all that stuff is mainly like energy and spiritual energy anyway. All we need to know is just believe that is there, right? And believe that like, because again, all that happened for us to be able to do this right now. It happened for you to be able to like learn from your experiences and say, no, I'm not going to get devastated by it. I'm going to liberate myself in it and liberate others, right? Like everything that people have done to like for the sake of the oppressed or anything has been for like, just for that kind of knowledge and that kind of like just that drive and support.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and for the right to say no. Like we say like freedom is like being able to say yes and go everywhere. Da, da. Freedom is being able to say no,
Mm.
right? Because as a Black woman, if I get a job at a marketing firm or something and they want to give me, and I know the starting salary, and they offer me a job less than that, I will say no. And I will say no proudly. Because saying yes, wasn't that just, you know what I mean? That's like saying yes, I will be a slave to you. Like yes, I'll just be here. Like no, I'm gonna go to where to exist how I want to exist. I want to be an equal. Okay, I want to be an individual. I want to walk into a place and be respected as Kumi, and not just like, oh yeah, that's the one black girl that we have here. Like
Mm-hmm.
no. So yeah, in terms of like healing, we have to focus on like ourselves and our individual experiences and get that and focus on how we feel about them too, right? Not just how they are objectively, but how they make us feel. Because that's how you know who you are. That's how you know what you like and what you don't like and whatever. Not just like what you've been through, but how you've reacted to how you've been through, right? Because people want to say, you're not your experiences and stuff. Like you're not your experiences. You're how
Mm-hmm.
you reacted to your experiences. Like that's where accountability comes from. If you do something to me, I can't control what you do to me. I can only control what I do. So when it comes to like, cause I said that before too about like black people having to focus on like black people and stuff. That's what
Mm-hmm.
I mean. Like, let's talk about pick a subject, any subject. School. How was your school experience? And I can tell you mine, and we can just like explore that identity together and see what we get to together.
Nah, I see some people in the chat. Shout out to Alex. Alex was saying, man, grief is hard in our community, and I don't know what
It
else
is.
he was saying, because I want to throw that back. Just thinking about healing and thinking about grief, and also just thinking about from my experience, and I don't know how you understand this, Kumi, but so many people I think handle grief differently, and some people probably handle grief by like making somebody else grieve. Some people probably handle grief by just never touching it, never speaking on it. Or some people handle grief by just using certain kind of substance and certain kind of like medication.
Yeah.
Thinking about and then thinking about our people, whether you're thinking about indigenous people, thinking about people from African descent throughout the diaspora, and thinking about humanity, from elders, from people who identify as straight or heterosexual, or people who identify
Yeah.
as queer, people who are in prison, who consider themselves non-gender, non-conforming. Thinking about the different ways our humanity come into this world. But let's start with young people first. Just thinking about young people, like from your neighborhood. Like, how do young people experience? Like, what are the ways you think young people could learn about grief, or what are the ways that young people are dealing with grief, that could help us understand a little bit more about how we can heal there, but also thinking about how that relates to their family a little bit, how that relates to some of the elders, but like how is
Yeah.
grief? Is grief the same thing and all of that? That do people got different ways that we need to think about that to help us get closer? What you think?
Yeah. So I first want to start off with saying like make sure people understand like grief is an emotion, right? And this year, a big thing for me in terms of like discovering and like epiphanies and shit has been realizing that like not only am I really emotionally unavailable and how I came to that point, but also a lot of black people are emotionally unavailable. And when I say that, I mean we don't know what emotions we're feeling when we're feeling them. It's not just like we can't feel stuff, because we do. We don't know what they are, and we don't know how to process them, right? So with grief, I would say a lot of people, because of like the system and how things are done, born into grief, like good grief, like that kind of like stress and stuff, like born into that. And it's real sinister when you break it down by how we exist, right? So like objectification and all these things happens to like children, like black children, like adultification, right? They're treated like they're older when they're young because blackness and whatever stereotype that is, right? But they're not, but their emotions and their mentality and all that stuff isn't treated the same way either. They're just physically, you're treated older. I don't care about
Mm-hmm.
your spirituality. I don't care about your emotion or whatever. So you don't know how to deal with these adult situations or adult conversations or whatever that an adult is having with you as a kid, right? All you know is that I have to be whatever. I just can't be how I'm being. I can't be a kid, right? So now you have a lot of adults out here, like I'm 22, a lot of young people out here,
Shout out to being 22 in the building.
a lot of young people out here doing adult things, starting businesses, getting into relationships, like moving out and stuff, not knowing how they're being affected by any of it, right? Not knowing how to explain themselves when they get caught up. Like it's not to say it's not their fault, but it's not my fault fully that I did what I did. because I'm so emotionally unavailable, I didn't understand that what I did would affect you the way that it did. We can't say that because we don't know that, you know? So when it comes to like grief and like anybody, because everything is connected, and I'm just gonna like sound a lot like that, like just like
Nah,
circles and stuff.
I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah, it's just how I think and stuff. But yeah, just come back to like knowing yourself, and doing that work, you will know how to deal with anybody else. Like as a person, as a human being, and like studying the human body and like the anatomy and all that stuff, right? And how things happen. You monitor and you watch what you do and how you do and how you say what you say and the reaction that you get. You can do that. You can build up like, emotional availability and how emotions move in your life and how like people react to what you do, how you express your love, how you express your grief, how you express your hatred if you have any. Like people can really do that work for themselves and know themselves. And that's it. The thing is having the time to do it. That's the thing. And it's another sinister aspect too, like black people aren't given, because we're not given the space, it's harder to be given the time, right? Because you're put in these spaces and you're told what to do. Go to school and go to school. Come home and clean and do whatever. Go to bed and so we sneak in what we want, because we also have good times. Like, I want to hang out with my friends and I want to eat this and I want to go there. So really having the time to just focus on ourselves, like, how was our day? What did we do today? Like, how was my day today? Like, when I woke up, how was I feeling? Reflection, right? And being introspective and being, like, aware. Self-awareness.
Mm.
That's the biggest one. Because I don't know how to teach people how to get it. All I've noticed, all I've heard, like, all I've learned was, like, if you know God, you know yourself. That's really it. That's all I know. That's all I know how to say if you already don't have it. But self-awareness is a big thing in terms of, like, just checking yourself, and so people don't have to do it for you, because again, no, a white person is not going to check me the same way that I'll check myself, most likely, and if I don't understand what the history behind that relationship is, and I take whatever that is for, oh, I guess I'm not worthy. I guess I can't do it on my own. I guess I have to, like, get left back. I guess I have to go on these medications and all this stuff to kids. Like, I'm not talking about adults, I'm talking about children that are in these situations and being told all these different stuff, and no one's explaining anything to them. No one's listening to them. No one's asking them anything. Like, when it comes to people that I'm, like, in my age group, we're really learning how to communicate for the first time, And I peeped it in high school, and that is why, like, I didn't have the greatest time in high school, like, in terms of, like, enjoying it and stuff. Because I realized, one, like, all the games that were being played, all the lives that were being, like, fed and stuff, and it's like, but when they were talking about college and stuff, like, everything that people learn in college, we can learn now. I can understand that now. Like,
Definitely.
and it's like not knowing how to get that information and not knowing how to have that conversation, right? Because the teachers in the building that care about you, but not knowing how to, like, approach them with, like, okay, how do I talk about redlining or whatever, Because it's like, if this is a school and, like, we're supposed to be here to learn and the curriculum says A, B, and C and you're in charge of the curriculum, I don't know what team you're on. I don't know if you really want to educate me on what I want to know or not. So I didn't really know who to talk to. All I could do was, like, see what was going on and feel a way about it and move on, But it was really sad because this is how people get caught up and stuck later in life and feel bad later in life. Like, people are in college feeling really low and stuff, and it's not your fault. Like, no, it's not your fault that people wanted to delay your mental, until they want to do what else they want to do with it, right? Because everything in this country is money. You get to college, you get to any club or whatever. There's money for the people that run that club for you. Like, there's money to get out of, like, learning about the educational system and how, like, what that did to, like, black people for the first time. You can go places and stuff. You can apply for things. Whereas if you were just growing up with that knowledge in your house, would you be doing all the work that you'd be doing when you're older? No, you'll be doing what you want to do. Like, that's it. So it's one great game, right? It's one big game, and you have to, like, know how to play to get out of it. Because I don't want to play. I don't want to play. I don't want to stay here. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I don't have to. People don't have to. There are Black people living their best lives. Okay? Not to say I'm not. I'm just saying.
Nah, talk about it. I think what is definitely true about some of the last stuff you said. I just finished my PhD degree, but there hasn't been a time in like my snatch to
Yep,
that
that's important.
in my whole educational life that I haven't like learned about like Black people and my history like in the K through 12 system or
Right.
in any of the educational system that wasn't a lie, that wasn't coming from a place of like whiteness.
Yeah.
In the small cracks that like I did find some truth about my people is because like people are rebellion against that lie, and I actually ran to those cracks. So
Yeah.
I definitely agree that when we go to any of this European colonial enslavement project of education, as Black people, as Indigenous people, we giving our young people and our future hopes away in a lot of ways because
Yeah.
it's hard to get out of the education colonization of like who you are as it relates to like your true history and the world true
It
history.
is. Yeah.
um Another, man, you went in and a lot, man. You was talking a lot about that really stuck about like how we gotta like be our authentic self. And I heard in the chat I was reading some messages from folks saying that like people in our hoods need more hugs and more
Yeah.
smiles and more people saying peace and thank you. And part of what I was thinking about when I was hearing some of that wisdom you was dropping about like some of the struggle we have with being our authentic selves, and then reading that comment around the need for hugs and for
Yeah.
smiles, it made me think about this podcast, Deaf Dope is Deaf, that recently came out that features Dr. Matula Shakur, and features the work that the Black Panthers did and the Young Lords in the 1970s, particularly in the Bronx. So shout out to
Yeah.
BX at the Lincoln Hospital when they took over the Lincoln Hospital and developed the People's Clinic to really serve the community that was going through housing issues and
Yeah.
and was drug victims of dope fiend and crack and other kinds of substance. So these people started doing acupuncture and healing work on the community, and it's kind of like after they took over the hospital and negotiate making a people's clinic, they started serving the community and doing acupuncture and massaging people. And one of the deep things that came out of that, one of the recordings of their experiences back then, they were saying that most of the people back then, like when it came to like sexual abuse or when it came to like
Yeah.
neglect, a lot of the times people have been hurt and been a lot of their grief is through the touch of other people. And they never really had people touch them in a way that was about care, that was about wellness.
Right.
So just going back to like Alex's point or somebody point talking about we need more hugs, but also going to the point around there's a reality around why it's hard for us to grieve or really to get close to each other, because a lot of our
Yeah.
experiences with sexual assault, with pain, with violence, particularly within our own families and our own communities, let alone when we go to these institutions like they was talking about the Lincoln Hospital, touch often is not a good thing. Um,
Yeah.
so so yeah, I just want to bring some of that history and some of the reasons of how we can reimagine how we engage with each other, how we can be with each other, that probably could move some of that grief out of our way. That could
Yeah.
give us different options of grief. And I think that the comment about giving more hugs and more smiles is one thing, but also a lot of our community got wounds within they body,
Yeah.
got a lot of baggage within them, that got a lot of addiction within them, that also our touches and our strategies can heal as well. Anything else you want to say about why we should be centering like our personal healing and transformation as we think about healing with our families and healing with movement and healing outside of the world? Anything else you want to hit on as a young person?
Yeah. So, because I was into what you were saying, I'm already taking notes, right? So, the comment that, about like love and hugs, right? Again, there are other ways to say that, right? Not to say that I was wrong. And I like, true, we do. We do need more love and the hugs, right? But healing is about like how you do the things that you do, right? So another way for that is just to take tenderness. Our community needs a lot more tenderness. I was watching a podcast. I think it was like a Josie podcast. She's a YouTuber, and I forgot the man that she was on the podcast with, but he was saying, I think tenderness is way more important than all that shit, right? Like I think tenderness is like it. Like that's the way that we need to communicate to get to where we need to be able to like handle that kind of like vulnerability that like, you know, healing demands and stuff. Because again, everything takes trust and respect. Like out of love comes like all these other branches, right? So you see what work needs to be done, healing. And what does that call for? A lot of gentleness, a lot of patience, a lot of tenderness, like compassion, you know, which was what you were touching on when you mentioned the project with the Lincoln Hospital and stuff. And you're
Dr.
like, you know,
Dr. Matula Shakur, yeah.
Matula Shakur, yeah, Dr. Matula Shakur, and that work with being authentic, but also being 100%, right? Again, and even greater to speak to the compassion that you were like uncovering and stuff. It's like black skinned people were brought out of the motherland to be enslaved. So we're already not 100% people. Like I'm already not seen as a person if you see me as a slave, right?
Talk about it.
And black skinned people in this country have had to do what no one else in my knowledge has ever had to do.
Talk about it.
We literally created our own culture.
Talk about
right?
it.
Black skinned Americans created their own culture time and time again. Like it wasn't just once. It wasn't just like African spirituals and stuff. It was jazz and hip
Talk about
hop
it. Talk
and
about it.
everything else and
Talk about
rock. You know what I mean? And all these ways of using all these instruments and all these ways of communicating and healing, right? But of course, because of the structure and how things are set up, we're never going to fully escape it until we do, right? So you have all the sad stories and all these other stuff too, but mostly what I want to focus on is the fact that it was created, period, and how it was created, right? Hip hop, for example, was created by like, I believe, what, like 5 gangbangers like decided to like stop fighting and make music. Essentially, that was it. Like gangs in the Bronx was like, we're just gonna make some music,
Shout
and
out the
they
street life.
did,
Shout out the street
you know,
life. Shout out the
and they
street life.
did.
Shout out the
Yeah,
street life.
shout out to them for real. And it's like 100% of yourself all the time is an example. Like the clinic is an example of that, right? How can we effectively be like 100%? Because again, for me to sit here and say that I love myself and I love you, I have to be willing to give 100% to myself and 100% to you, right? And we can all do it. We just have to do it. Like we have to do the work to do it. So that takes tenderness and that's comfort and that takes support, right? And all these things are not things like the way that they have to be done to effectively heal. They're not popular in our culture, right? And I need black people to understand that, like, I need everyone to understand, not just black people. Because I don't like when people speak to, like, black people as if we're the only ones that do a bad thing or, like, a wrong thing. But I'm speaking to black people now because I don't care. I don't care, but everyone else is not my business.
Yeah,
You know?
we got here
Like,
with us
it's not
first.
my place. It's not my place to, like, speak to other stuff. So,
Talk about it.
in terms of us, culture is meant to evolve. Like, we can have our traditions and we can have our, like, you know, whatever, but culture is meant to be an evolutionary thing. Like, we're humans. It doesn't make sense to keep doing what people did X amount of years ago if we have the new stuff that we can make it easier for us now. It's okay to be comfortable. It's okay to create comfortable spaces for ourselves because, you know, being so used to struggle, we do that. Like, we have to struggle, we have to grind, da da da. It's okay to be in luxury. Like, it doesn't take anything from your struggle. It doesn't take anything from your story to, like, okay, now I'm comfortable, I'm at peace, you know? You don't always have to be on go. So the kind of, because again, like, you know, acupuncture and like therapy and like massages and stuff, these kind of touches, not like they're just like health wise, we don't know about them and we don't really know what they can do for our bodies. They're just not common in the home. You know what I mean? How many hugging families do you know in the hood? They're there, but how many do you know? How many hugging friends do you know? They're there, but how many do you know?
Talk about it.
Like, we have to make things, we have to literally normalize things and do that with the understanding and the compassion that we deserve, that we already have. We just have to remind ourselves of it. You know, because it's not our fault. It's not 100% our fault that we're in the spots or like the statistics that we're in, right? We just have to understand it to do the effective work. Because again, I'm not saying like we don't have any accountability at all. We have to have the right accountability. Because again, that's how conversations go left. You know, like you'll be talking to somebody and you'll phrase something that has to do with like accountability, like in an insulting way, and they'll catch feelings. And whatever healing you were doing is gone now. You know, because you weren't mindful of how you were speaking, because you weren't mindful of who you were speaking to. Like speaking to Black people, the different kind of than speaking to like Latinos, you know, or like Chinese or any other kind of person. For the most part, for the most part, we deserve and we take a different amount of like compassion and forgiveness and understanding and all that stuff and tenderness and care. You know, all these words. Like I was well into my teens when I first heard about compassion and truly understood what that meant. Because we all hear these words like compassion and whatever, but it's like, do you know what they mean? Like, how do you practice that? Do you practice it, or do you just say it when you want to write it in like something to make it sound good? You know, like actually practicing all these words. So yeah,
Nah, that
I'm
was
gonna try to read the
spirit.
comments here too.
That was spirit right there, man. Thank you for that breathe out right there. Um, that was beautiful. I just want to make sure I hear some of the chats, man. People were saying tap into
Yeah,
vulnerability. People were saying like they share their stuff by writing, by praying, reading the Bible, cooking. Some people
yeah,
talking about how it's hard to talk about some of this with their families. Um,
yeah,
Shout out to street life. You know, some people call them gangs. Some people call them thugs. But definitely shout out to like our street organizers and our people organizing on the blocks and the
yeah.
hallways.
They're people, like their
Um,
lives, you know, and it's always something to be learned from a life.
mhm.
So the whole work that like grassroots organizations do, and then the way that it's taken and that they're kind of erased is really sinister when you speak to the whole system of like racism and stuff. Like we can't afford that. We can't afford to be like stolen from. Not here, not our work, you know? Like it's a different thing. So yeah, shout out to them because they're the ones that are doing like they're the data. You know, they're the ones that are doing all that work that people want to reap that proper profit off of and all that stuff.
And we definitely giving shout out to like our our mothers and our grandmoms and our black and indigenous women who are like the stars, and to our people in churches and to our young people, and to the intersections of us, you know. And I think what you were saying is like, how do all of those people, how do we honor each other enough so that we could bring our grief with each other and share that with each other, and in a compassionate way, and bring each other there, so that we could have the have the fortitude to kind of like journey with each other, you know. And a lot of our work in H.O.L.A, we talk about journey, and a lot of our circle work that we did to make the documentary and the Hill and Justice album came from us having about 60 to 80 healing circles. Um,
Yeah,
and each of those healing circles had their own magic and their own experience to them. But it was a lot of grief sharing in some of them. Some of them we just cried a lot, you know, talking to young people who parents were locked up and who wasn't with them, and talking about, you know, when do they leadership struggle with their parents? You know,
yeah,
we should have like and like how do they judge their parents, or how do they see their parents, or how do the world see their parents? And we had moments of
right.
sharing a lot of grief. And we also talked about stuff in our personal life, you know, like me, like being separated at the time, and not being with my wife, and feeling like I did some things as a person, as a lover, as a husband, that, you know, that hurt my relationship with my wife. And every day, you know, me and my wife is back together, but that's a constant kind of like closing and opening the grief to try to like, for one, be honest with yourself, also get the community support to hear you, to give you that love, and also to
Yeah,
try to like, you know, name that so you can step on it and try to be better tomorrow. But
yeah,
what you said was so spiritual, man. We coming down to our closing. We want to ask the audience and people tuned in. If you got questions, get your questions ready for us. If you got, you know, I've been seeing the comments. We're gonna do a quick round of some spirit questions. And while see if they in the building, they know where these questions came from when we was making the release plans for our documentary back in March before the COVID hit. We came up with these kind of
pledge questions that we wanted to like introduce to the audience as we was going to show the documentary. So for this, we came to H.O.L.L IG live discussions going forward. We're gonna kind of have a closing round where we have these spirit questions, and you can kind of like answer whatever comes to you as fast as possible, or or I mean whatever comes to you as soon as possible. So let's get it going. Who do you want to heal with?
Myself.
What does healing mean to you?
Oh, freedom. Yes,
Freedom.
healing means freedom.
Who do
Yeah,
you
he
owe?
means
Who do you owe healing to?
other than myself, my parents,
Uh-huh.
my family. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
people that I've said that people I've given myself to untruthfully, right? By mistake. Like I've made promises like, yeah, I can do that and I can be there. But with dealing with my own thing, I wasn't there and I couldn't do it, right? So it's
Uh-huh.
like, oh, so you were places that you shouldn't have been, and do that work and make those amends and don't do it again, right? Because once you're healed, you can't repeat what you've done, you know?
Who owes you healing?
Who owes me healing? I don't know. I really don't feel like anyone does. Cause I'm not like that anyway. I
Uh-huh.
don't take things personally. I don't mean anything personally unless I say it that way. But
Uh-huh.
yeah, and I'm not concerned with that either. If somebody feel that they owe me something, they can just give it to me. It's whatever.
Have you ever thought about the question, how, how you healing, but at some time or some place in the world at the same time, somebody else is not healing? So what comes to mind when you say, how are you healing while other people's are hurting?
I just have to understand. Okay, because ultimately, the kind of world that I'm gonna create for myself, and I'm creating now, it's like I'm doing what I'm doing over here. I don't need you over here. I just need to know who you are, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you're like a friend or a foe or whatever, I need to know which one. And then you can do what you're doing over there. Whatever it is, you can keep doing it over there. I'll do what I'm doing over here, and God will take care of both of us, okay? It's not my business. So
Talk about that.
if you're not healing right now, that's your business, right? Because it doesn't mean that you're a horrible person. It doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
that you're like the Antichrist if you're not healing. You're just preoccupied, or you don't know that you should be healing, or whatever else, And that's your business. And it's like, okay, me, can I be around you now, though? Like
Mm-hmm.
now that you're hurting and whatever, are you still a kind of person that I can be around? If so, then I'll be around you. And if not, I won't be around you. But
Talk,
everybody around me healing.
talk
So,
about it. So let's keep it
yeah.
going. We were talking about grief and pain and all that. We didn't really get into shame and some of those bags there, but it's some of that there. How does
hmm
your own fear of vulnerability in whatever moment or at certain time negate your own healing? So how does your own fear of vulnerability negate your own healing at certain times?
They're opposites, right? Like fear and healing, right? If I'm saying like healing is freedom, fear and freedom can't two things can't occupy the same space at the same time, right? So when I find myself at those points of like struggling or grappling with something, I have to do the work to understand and give myself the compassion to like, okay, like why is this happening, what happened, and assessing it and like moving on from it, right? Because baggage and all this stuff, we're not supposed to carry that with us, like we're not supposed to carry all these things with us, like our bodies are not meant for it, like it's literally too much to handle, like grief and all these feelings that you were talking about, like grief and shame, we're meant to just like experience them, to remember what happened, and then to not do it again, or to know how to like deal with these emotions when we find ourselves in it again. Because if grief is so paramount and in the Black community, we should know how to handle it, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
from jump, we should know. We should already know. Like we should just be like, we should be here but chilling. Like they want us to be like in it, but we chilling. But that's not it because we don't know, right? And that just comes out of like when you were talking about your own personal stuff, like we have to give ourselves the compassion to unlearn and relearn all the roles that we take up already, and then assess it against like who we are. And that's how we can tell people, this is the kind of girlfriend that I am. This is the kind of student that I am. This is the kind of friend that I am. Because I know myself. if we don't do that, because again, all that we've been told is someone else's definition of shit. It's not our own. It's not our parents. It's not our ancestors. It's somebody else's, right? And even if it was our parents or whatever, we would still have to do that work for ourselves. So now it's like, okay, I'm an adult now. I can be in the capacity to like understand these words and understand these thoughts or whatever and do that work, you know? And it doesn't have to be sad. It's hard because like new feelings and new emotions can like really, they feel away. They feel racking, like nerve wracking, you know? So you have to you literally need comfort and support while you're doing it. And you have to be the one to give that to yourself at all times. I can comfort, I can support myself, but also if I need it, I have friends that can do it with me, you know? Not for me, but they can do it with me. And I think Black people more than anybody needs to understand how humans are meant to exist with one another and how we want to exist with one another. You know, I'm not in the business of like telling people what they can and cannot do, what they should and should not do. I don't want to lead. I don't want to, no, let's just help ourselves. Like, let's lead ourselves and help ourselves that way.
Fire. The chat was feeling that too, man. You getting mad love in the chat.
Understand.
That was fire.
Thanks, guys.
This is the last question. Let's keep it going. So this is, we got about 9 people on. Some people was on and jumped off. We're gonna record this. We're gonna upload this to H.O.L.A TV, which is our YouTube channel. But
yep. Subscribe.
Subscribe to H.O.L.A TV. We need everybody subscribe, share the link, share our documentary.
Yeah.
But this question is thinking about your friends and in the Bronx that you grew up with, thinking about your family, thinking about like your ancestors. Let folks let us know, and thinking about us, listen, let us know when you struggling, or when you going for like some vulnerability, or you going for some hope, or you going to get the love within you. Like, what is some of the stuff you do? How do you get some of that in? When some of those moments are there and you trying to re-energize, or try to go get you some vulnerability, or try to go get you some emotions so you can grieve, or try to go get you some love for yourself. Like, what is some of the stuff you do to go get that? Speak to us.
So this year was a big year for that in terms of like self-care and like how to manage yourself, right? And I realized just how instrumental breathing is, like breathing. And I've always known, but I didn't realize, because I wasn't emotionally available, I didn't know like, oh, I have to breathe through all these things. And once you start working out and stuff, and I have friends that do yoga and all this stuff, so I can ask them for like, how do I do this easier? How can I make this easier for me? Because working out is hard. Oh, you inhale on the hard parts and you exhale when next, like you just inhale, like, so you're doing like a sit up, right? You inhale on the way up because it's harder for you, and then when you exhale, like you exhale, and it'll literally feel easier, right? So when breathing through things that like, and again, minding how you're breathing too, because a lot of people breathe for control and they don't breathe for like liberation. Like, we breathe when we're in a situation like we're angry and we're like seize up and stuff, and we're like trying to get some control, just trying to get it right, and it's fleeting and it's hard, because that's not what we should be doing. You should be not succumbing to it, but understanding it. And when you understand it, you can understand what you would do next, understand how to react, and then you react. Because again, it's very easy to do physical things when you have the rhythm of doing them, right? Like growing up, people that would fight and stuff in school, and like people have all this to say about them, and it's like they've been fighting their whole lives. It's not hard to hit somebody once you've done it X amount of times. It's not hard for that to be your first way or your first solution once you've had to literally fight, wherever you go. So no, I'm not gonna judge them for it. No, everybody else that you're a teacher, teach them how to do it. Like, what? Like, because again, you fight and then you get expelled or suspended. You do something wrong and they kick you out. When you go to detention, what's detention? You're sitting there. It's not like an active, it's not like restorative justice, whatever. Like, you're just sitting there with your wrongness to think about what you did. Like to tell you that when younger. Think about what you did. Okay, now what? Like, I've thought about it. Now what? And I just realized it last week. Pray and practice. That's what I do. I pray and practice what I pray about.
Talk about it.
They say, like, practice what you preach. Practice what you pray about. When you pray for like guidance and strength and stuff. Because again, every human is already we are all words, right? Like I am everything at the same time. It's up to me to choose what I
Mm,
want to be at any given time,
talk about it.
right? Like people shouldn't let life happen to them. Like we are here, we have free will, we have minds and hearts and stuff. We like life is what you make it, literally. Like I'm not gonna like, just sit by and let life like people do or whatever happen. No, like if I want to go somewhere, I'm gonna go somewhere. If I have something to do, I'm gonna do it. The same thing with yourself, right? If you don't like how you're feeling or whatever, pray about it and
Hmm.
practice what you pray about. That's what I do.
Mm. The chat was feeling that too. So Kumi said, definitely breathe and get that breathing into your life. And then another form of breathing is prayer, and how that prayer
Mhm.
be a breath that turns into like your
Yeah,
daily actions. Somebody in the chat sent the question. Also, if you got more questions in the chat, send us questions. Send them to Kumi.
definitely. Yes.
Send them to me. Talk about the documentary. Share the link. But Kumi, one of the questions somebody asked is like, how do you suffer with others? And what's the
How do I
importance?
suffer with others?
Yeah, what's the importance of suffering with
Mm.
others too? Thinking about healing and grieving. I think.
Well, with others, you're talking about listening now, right? It's a listening component. Like
Mm-hmm.
suffering, you have to listen to that. Because again, that's like giving 100%. Yeah, like being a friend, right? And being 100% means, cause I used to, people, when I used to do it, like people would talk to me about their stuff and then I would respond with my own stuff. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, that's not nice because I could have just came to you and told you my stuff when it happened to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're taking up their time. They need to reclaim their time, you know? So with suffering with others, I literally just, because I understand that I'm not emotionally available, like emotions used to literally scare me. Like I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what to
Talk
do
about
with people crying to me, right? So it's like, okay, I was watching something and I got the work. I don't know what it was, but it was like, what do you need? Like, it was a show and this woman asked like her friend, like, what she needed because something happened to her. And I was like, oh, is that easy? Like, because once like that, like when, say you and I are together, right? And like you're crying and stuff. I'm like, what do you need?
it. Mm-hmm.
Everything is already like checked off. You have the comfort that you need. I'm there. Because even if it's like just sitting in silence, my presence being there is enough because you're not alone, you
Mm-hmm.
know? Like we don't have to like actively talk and like look for solutions right now, even though that's the kind of person that I am. I don't like dwelling and stuff, so I'm usually on go. Like how I suffer with others, like yeah, I'll listen to you, but also it's like options, right? How you
Mm-hmm.
can like what you can do now to not be in a situation for much longer, right? But yeah, listening is a huge component. And when you haven't been listened to, because again, people don't listen to
Mm-hmm.
black people. If you're
Talk about it.
being adultified from a child, right? You're 5 years old and you're being adultified. Because adults don't really, like, we're not like talking all the time, you know? So you're being shushed up when you're little. How do you know how to listen if you've never been listened to? It's all
Mm-hmm.
behavior, and behavior is learned, right? Me sitting here listening to me, I can watch someone listen to somebody else and learn from them. Oh, like eye contact, and I'm still, and I'm engaged, and all that stuff. Okay, I can do that. And if I can't, I can say I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it is what it is. But yeah, like just really understanding you as a human, all right? Because again, the next question, the next after that is like, if you can't do that, well, how do you view yourself as a human being? What does that mean to you? Because human beings need this. Like, we
Mm-hmm.
need community. Like,
Mm-hmm.
progression doesn't exist without it, you know? So,
Snaps to that, man. Now, I would just add to that suffering with others, like, and to the point about listening, not just like listening as like a verbal way of understanding, but like listening to spirit and the vibrations
yeah,
that is driving. Listen to the emotions within the interdynamics of your relationships, and being present to all of those things as you struggle and suffer with people. I think is also what I would add to that. Do
yeah,
folks got any other questions? I see A Rock's co-founder in the building saying being open and honest is the key element of vulnerability. Kieran said prayers work. Alex said I
yeah.
love breathing. We got some waves. We
As
got
you
some
should. It's
thumbs up.
great.
We owe it.
Yeah,
They said we owe it to each other. Um, Mariah said I will always listen, but the negative going, I can't deal with it, so I just mess with the mind and emotions.
mm-hmm.
Congratulations on this great project and your PhD completion. Shout out to
Yeah.
me. Thank you for that. Congratulations. Is there anything else you want to share? You want to talk about? You want to let people know where they can contact you at? This is your time to add more about the documentary. If you want to talk about you, just whatever you want to share. And also, we can save it for the next point. But I also want to let people know how they can follow you and stay in contact with you too.
Yeah. I still have that poem if you wanted me to read it now.
Yeah, we're gonna get into that poem. If that's what you want to share on your last words or what else you want to share. I just want to make
Yeah.
sure you got a chance to let people know anything else that's on your spirit. And we just want to thank everybody for joining us. Check in with us tomorrow, 6:30 to 8. We're gonna have one of our own organizers, Kieran, joining us, and we're gonna keep these conversations going. And I'm gonna pass it out to Kumi to wrap us up, man. So jump us off.
I mean, yeah, y'all can just follow me on here. Pretty much. I'm on here and I'm on Twitter. And Twitter is at Kumi KUMI _ McLovin. I was young. I was in high school when I made it. It was a thing. It's an inside joke. But yeah, that's that. And this piece is actually one I wrote this year. In a workshop, in a writing workshop here based out of Yonkers. On Zoom, right? It's a Zoom writing workshop. I think it's connected to the Blue Door Art Center in Yonkers. So yeah, if anyone wants to write and stuff with a community of other people, like an intergenerational community, look that up. Because you can definitely get invited to it. So it's called Home. It's called Home. All right. Okay. I'm in pursuit of my home, of my peace, my humble abode. Mi casa su casa for all of my friends. Foes who intend to lend their dirtied hands will never reach me there, never see me, carefree in my carefully constructed heaven on earth. I want what Golda has with the Hudson, how it reminds her of everything she loves. I want to love my setting as she loves hers. I want to love not only where I lay my head, but where my bed has to live its very eventful life. I want my walls to speak, you are loved, to shelter my insecurities so I never have to fold, never have to shrink myself at home. Jackie was always a girl from the Bronx. I guess I've always been too, always destined to be built this way. Where else could I have been born except the boogie down Bronx, where you see 12 times a day, to see black bodies fight to go away, to see the inspiration, my duty to keep it going. Born Ghanaian American has taught me how to be human.
Mm,
Now that I recognize the power in my identity, I know it must be shielded to be free. Not by choice, this world is not my doing, but I know what I must do to live in this world, to make it to my next one, on my terms. My home will be my protest, my
mm,
heart in my art, my mind in the intricacies of my address. A place so me, you'll need to call it by its name, Auntie Kumi's house, where the willingness will be the key to unlock the best of all we're going to be. We'll listen and laugh and understand our own paths. We'll eat good food and dance, however it moves through us.
mm,
We'll smoke homegrown herbs and remember
mm,
when we had to play with such a
mm,
simple luxury. We'll pray and be grateful that we found each other, that we are
mm,
welcomed in one another's home, to actively participate in love as we should. We thank God for painting all of us as worthy. All our
mm,
paradises in progress, the next wonder of the world. Thank you to everyone who has ever welcomed me home. Thanks, Cory.
mm,
Just bring
mm,
yourself. Just bring yourself as a housewarming gift. 1 second. The glow of loved ones is what keeps the light on. The talks with loved ones is what keeps my
mm,
door open.
mm.
2020 has took oh 2020 took us skydiving and pushed us out wherever we may have fallen. With whatever baggage with whatever baggage we did not know we needed. But the good news is that home is not only the destination, but the journey. So if you
Mm.
don't see me, don't worry. I'm on my way home. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Kumi, for dropping that poem, for dropping that
You're
spirit,
welcome.
for teaching us and our viewers about journeying. You are such a gift to Holla and to your family and to the
Oh,
people that
thank
was listening.
you.
Everybody else, we coming back tomorrow, 6:30 to 8. We gonna close out with a couple of songs from our youth organizing collective. Stay
Yes.
on and bump with us. Share the video, pass the link, share the documentary. Make sure we get to 100,000. Shout out to
Yep.
Ashley and Alex. We going into.
Everybody.
I'm on that shit too, man. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That's a fact.
Same shit, different day.
Yeah.
We was born into with knowledge is power. Keep that in mind.
Get the
Pay
headphones
attention
off.
to the road and the sounds. You gon' shine, you gon' know when it's time. We was born into oppression. Threw us in them jails, waist deep in depression. All the deception had a way, it caused for a lesson. School prices go up, kids don't show up, gang signs get thrown up, oppression gets thrown up. Politicians speak on it, they acting like they know us. They just wanna control us with the lies that they told us. And now
Okay.
What you know about hopelessness? What you know about hopelessness? What your back is ever when you turn is hopelessness. Turning everything beautiful into some hopelessness. All our lives we've been running from hopelessness. Yeah. What you know about hopelessness? What your back is everywhere you turn is hopelessness. Turning everything beautiful into some hopelessness. How all our lives we've been running from hopelessness. Yeah. I'm running, 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 I'm running from hopelessness. Watch your back is everywhere you turn. Watch your back is everywhere you turn. Watch your back is everywhere you turn. I'm running, 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 I'm Watch your back is everywhere you turn. Watch your back is everywhere you turn. Watch your back is everywhere you turn.
Hopscotching with hope since first sermons I wrote. When moms was singing lullabies, wrote me some boats. Was definitely off key, but didn't know me no notes. Didn't know me no posts, this motivational quotes. Shit is hard to digest when it's crammed down your throat, folks. Hopelessness rhymes with plenty of jokes, though. Been knocked down once, bounced off of the ropes, though. Life came blow by blow. Like, yeah, know that this loss is some shit I know. East Oak, put the name on it. Visit town, start to put some claim on it. When it's hot flames on it, don't put no shame on it. When your hope look less like it got a frame on
We
it.
was hopeless, back against the wall, but we was focused. Run upon us, heat of smoke, and Lord knows we was sold. I had to go, we had that work on the road. All of the snow, out for the power, this shit like the show. We at the top of the list, cops is watching, stopping the kids.
We're still in the building. Shout out to our producer, Killing Justice Movement. Risco the Strangler. Shout out to Tony Baez.
We had to get it. Up all weekend, sleep in a minute. That's in the corner.
Shout out to
We ain't scared,
Wexler.
no, we not timid.
Shout out to Lauren. Shout out to Victor. My Asia Phil. The Legacy. Center for New Leadership. Shout out to our elder and ancestor Eddie Ellis. His beautiful daughter and our beautiful sister, the struggle rare. I see Mike Africa in the chat earlier. Shout out to the Move Movement in Philadelphia. Shout out to Mike Africa. Shout out to our elders and our ancestors. And our lessons learned and the courage that our brothers and sisters from the movement have shared with us. We the people. Share the documentary. Let's get 100,000 K.
Back to the basics. I'm like Morpheus when I'm fighting the Matrix. Can't eat, can't sleep, but I had to be patient. It's on some hate shit. My family had to take risks. Bloodline of courageous. You can't replace this. Hopelessness is contagious. Killing you might make sense. No longer been racing. You know I can't fake this. I've been running from hopelessness. Sometimes I don't say shit, so I'm back to the basics. I got the answers. You got
Investing means putting less in. I'm thinking about how I'm investing, ways we can build great wealth without spending. I'm thinking about how I'm projecting back, I'm traumatized, I'm reflecting. I'm thinking about all our connections, we so close but still be pretending. I'm thinking about all our sessions, digging so deep, we don't need defending. I know you've been stressing, losing my presence. I be forgetting how to set the true tree, set the true tree. Now we in our knees, we ain't taking sleep. I'm running, 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 I'm running from hopelessness. Watch your back is everywhere you turn. Watch your back is everywhere you turn. Watch your back is everywhere you turn. I'm running, 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 I'm running from hopelessness. Watch your back is everywhere you turn. Watch your back is everywhere you turn. Watch your back is everywhere you turn. I came in the door, I said it before. This structural balance shit is pissing me off. These themes, these labels, I'm stripping them off. I'm taking
Shout out to co-founder A-Rock.
Pushing right through, man, I'm taking it down. Ladies, what you built up, man, we breaking it down. Get these tricks and these lies, man, we piss right now. Yeah, eyes wide open, yeah, we see you clown. I see you from human just to human, from locked in a pin of pursuing. The greed of the poems are growing. I'm running, I'm running, I'm running. I'm holding, I'm toting, I'm coping. I'm living, I'm focused, I'm open. This hopeless shit is real, but I never ever be broken. You mad, you sad, you sad. I'm like you check, I'm bad. You fight, you talk, you laugh. I'm doing what 80 you crash. You trying your best to kill me. My answer, the blood of the enemies. I'm running, I'm running, I'm running. Can't none of you motherfuckers with me. I'm running, 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 I'm running from hopelessness.
Who running from hopelessness? Everywhere you turn. Shout out to Nash. Shout out to Shaq. Shout out to Alex. Shout out to A-Rock, Briscoe, T-Mom. Thanks for teaching us how to run from hopelessness. Shout out to Nina. Shout out to Ryan. We're going to play a couple of more and we're going to get up out of here. We're going to play a couple of more and we're going to get up out of here. A couple of more of these joints. Couple of more. We're going to Alex real fast. One of my favorite. How you going to grow? How you going to grow?
How I'm gonna grow. Still think about the pain that someone gave me. Will it break me or will it make me? Or will I hurt you by the way it made me? Tell me how I'm gonna grow. Yeah. I just gotta let it go. Yeah.
How you gonna grow?
Tell me how I'm gonna grow.
Still thinking about the pain that somebody gave me.
Will it break me
or will it make me?
Or will I hurt you by the way it made me?
Tell me how I'm gonna grow. We still thinking about the pain that somebody gave us. What you talking about?
I'm gonna tell you what's going on. Let me 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 tell you what's going on.
We talked about grief today. Shout out to Kumi for dropping that wisdom. She was talking about how you gonna grow.
I'm not right, won't lead you wrong, but I never been about those rights or wrongs. Tell you the truth, I know that this life ain't long. Hug my bro a second, he was dead and gone. That's where I'm at when I write these songs. So ask no questions about how my life been, dog. Just bump the shit and you could get hype for more. I shine bright in the night cause my lights ain't on. Love strikes like a lightning rod. I'm ready for war, safety off so my mind is on. My prime and it's time fighting on Cybertron. I need a place, get my space, get my crying on. I punch walls, get my roar, get my lying on. When I'm in rage, burn a lot of haze, burn a lot of sage. You could kinda say I get my lying on. Talk shit about me, who you lying on? I'm gonna tell you what's going on. Let me 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 tell you what's going on. Yeah. How I'm gonna grow. What? Still think about the pain that someone gave me. Will it break me or will it make me? Or will I hurt you by the way it made me? Tell me how I'm gonna grow. What? Yeah. What? I just gotta let it go. Yeah. Tell me how I'm gonna grow. What? Still think about the pain that someone gave me. Will it break me or will it make me? Or will I hurt you by the way it made me? Tell me how I'm gonna grow. I just gotta let it go. How I'm gonna grow.
Still think about the pain that someone gave me. Will it break me or will it make me? Or will I hurt you by the way it made me? Tell me how I'm gonna grow. Yeah. I just gotta let it go. Yeah. Tell me how I'm gonna grow. Still think about the pain that someone gave me. Will it break me or will it make me? Or will I hurt you by the way it made me? Tell me how I'm gonna grow. Yeah. I just gotta let it go. Now I'm opening bags that I haven't in years. Trust the process while I'm shedding my fears. This get different when you think how you living. Remember mom was outside on a mission. Kids starving, ain't no food in the kitchen. Get your ass up for not washing the dishes. Who at the door, ACS, mind your business. Get locked up, ain't no business.
Alex solo mixtape is coming soon to the world, man. This is like, you know, the energy that came from the Hill is just this movement. Look out for stuff from Ashley, look out for stuff from Shaq. Bristow is cooking up, been cooking up. Bristow the Strangler got beats on deck. So it's a lot of cooking still going. DM us if you want to get in contact with Bristow the Strangler. Throw your Instagram in the chat. Alex, throw your Instagram in the chat in case people want to get in contact with y'all.
I just gotta let it go. Yeah. Tell me how I'm gonna grow. Still think about the pain that someone gave me. Will it break me or will it make me? Or will I hurt you by the way it made me? Tell me how I'm gonna grow. I just gotta let it go. I'ma tell you what's going on. Let me tell you what's going on. Let me tell you what's going on.
Shit alive, baby. Shit alive.
Let me tell you what's going on. Let me tell you what's going on. Yeah.
We got 2 more songs and we out of here, baby. 2 more songs and we out of here on this Sunday. I'm on that shit too. We finally made it here.
Same shit, different day, na 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 na. Same shit, different day, na 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 na.
Same shit, different day.
Same shit, different day. Same shit, different day, na 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 na. Same shit, different day, na 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 na.
Same shit, different day.
Na 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 na.
Same shit, different day. Same shit, different day. I'm on that shit too. Reside in places other people go through shit too. We young and
we ended with Time Heals Everything. That's the last song. Time Heals Everything.
They don't bang me, cut that shit's
we on that shit too.
Dreams evaporate, let me elaborate. Since birthday, give me shit food. Sexualized 3/4 of a man and put me in a grill of shit zoo. Told me pain is how you gain, how the whole world is against you. Cause everything you touch, you colonize. I ain't fucking with those dollar signs, but a heavy heart with a hollow mind. Pass me the torch, I can go combine. Universe set is out time. Line says while I'm blowing haze. That's how we empower minds. Cointel trying to have a session, trying to know all about the mission. But it's step before we drop it down. I'm on that shit too.
Same shit, different day, na 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 na. Same shit, different day, na 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 na.
Shout out YOC, the report back. Go check the album out. It's on all platforms.
Same shit, different day, na 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 na. Same shit,
iTunes,
different day, na na na.
SoundCloud, YouTube, Apple Music. It's the report back.
I guess the D's on that shit too, cause black people dying, it's not an issue. It's never a problem to them, cause they don't want that shot, that pistol, it's a missile. Cause when you kill one, that shit ripples. They don't understand the shit that we already been through. It went from slavery to being someone free. Now all they doing is modifying shit into modern day slavery. It's all a scheme. I remember Martin had a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out its highest dream. That's what I believe. But it's 2018. And all I fucking see is our people locked up physically and mentally. That's Donald dreams. And every day I pray that somebody I love don't end up 6 feet under me. So I guess I'm on that shit. Same shit, different day, na 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 na. Same shit, different day, na 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 na.
Same shit, different day.
Na 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 na.
Same shit, different day. Same shit, different day.
Same shit, different day, na 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 na. Same shit, different day, na na na.
Same shit, different day.
Na 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 na.
Same shit, different day.
Was out in places other people gon' do shit too. Or grandma, uncle, sister, cousins flip that brick too. Or maybe have to cause the will survive is sick too. Plague of the 80s, mama even smoked that shit too. Had all her life to heal from, I know she ain't meant to. A 5% of queen with 4 kids paying rent too. Ride for your rollie while you riding in your rent too. Just so those babies could get checkers for they dent too. This street shit meant to. Cause nobody out here in these streets to defend you. Cause the whole world been on that shit to infuse you with that sick news. Playing with this sick blues. Cause I've been on that shit. Same shit, different day, na 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 na. Same shit, different day, na 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 na. Same shit, different day.
Same shit, different day. Same shit, different day. Same shit, different day.
Same shit, different day, na 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 na.
Same shit, different day. 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 We on that shit too. Out in the building. Shout out to YOC. We're gonna end with this last song by Bristow and Mashley. Time heals everything and we out of here. Sarita, what's up, cuz? Shout out to Mississippi. Shout out to Chicago. Shout out to my big cousin Sarita and the Benny Smith family. Shout out to Ruby. I see my uncle Stan and my auntie Bird. In Tennessee, shout out to the family in Mississippi. Happy birthday, Stan. Peace.
That's the circumstances when you're dealing with life. Lost a lot of homies. Shout out to the ones that know me. Trying to live lavish with a presidential role. Sometimes it feels lonely. Nobody understands me. Rest in peace, Romy was locked up in that patty. Pour a little liquor, roll up a fatty. Making toast to success, moving gladly. Time goes on.
Closing on this note, man. Time heals everything. As long as you put that spirit in, you put that work in.
Time to change it up. Homie, you ain't the same as us. I've been down before, but now I'm staying